Like to call this special meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Donald Hewish,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tempore Margaret Morales,
Present.
Councilmember Mitch Lindeman,
Here.
Councilmember Dania Costa, Councilmember Ray Shelton,
Present.
Councilmember Michael Valdenegro, Councilmember Jose Grijalva,
Here.
City Manager Ana Urquijo,
Present.
City Attorney Dennis Fitzgibbon,
Present.
City Treasurer Luis Pedrosa. Mr. Mayor, for the record, Councilmember Valdenegro is excused.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, persons wishing to address the council in writing or verbally on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any?
We have none.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, reading of Catholic Schools Week proclamation. Whereas the city of Douglas, Arizona is a community which acknowledges Catholic schools have a commitment to provide young students of all races and creeds with an education that emphasizes academic and moral values, as well as teaching respect and love for God, country, and fellow human beings. And whereas the city of Douglas, Arizona is a community which acknowledges Catholic schools serve over 6,400 students in the Diocese of Tucson for families not only of the Catholic faith, but also for other families, which provide opportunities for a quality education to children of all faiths. And whereas the city of Douglas, Arizona is a community which acknowledges each year Catholics nationwide celebrate Catholic Schools Week to recognize the accomplishments of Catholic primary and secondary schools across the country, with this year's theme being Catholic Schools, Faith, Excellence, Service. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Donald C. Hewish, Mayor, and on behalf of the City of Douglas Council, do hereby proclaim January 29th through February 4th to be Catholic Schools Week, and urge all our citizens in the community to participate in the wide range of activities that will be held in our community to exemplify the best of Catholic education. Congratulations and thank you. Item number 5, presentation update on the Douglas Oral History Project. I'd like to take the opportunity before we hear the update to let everyone know of these 3 wonderful ladies that have sacrificed much time and effort to make this Douglas History Project, which started in the latter part of 2020, a reality. First, Jenny Jordan is a lifelong community member who has been the heart and soul of the Wall of Faces, the Veterans Museum housed at the Gadsden Hotel. She has a deep understanding, love, and commitment for the people of Douglas. Also in this wonderful oral history project is Ceci Durazo Lewis. She completed her PhD in Mexican American Studies in 2016 at the University of Arizona with the traveling museum exhibit, Leaving a Legacy, focusing on 15 women of Mexican heritage in Douglas during the first half of the 20th century. And last but not least, Beth Henson. She received her PhD in history from the University of Arizona in 2015. Her research on the Partido Liberal Mexicano in Douglas was published in the Cochise County Historical Journal in winter 2020. She has lived in Bisbee and been a Bisbee resident since 1983. I can't thank enough these 3 ladies that have brought this wonderful project to our community. I don't know who wants to go first, but welcome, ladies, and please.
Thank you. Councilmember, we're here today to thank you for your support. It's only because of the generosity of City of Douglas that we were able to have that space in the municipal building for the 2 years that got us launched. And we will be moving now to Gadsden. But we'd like to take this opportunity to tell you how grateful we are for your support. because, well, we know that, well, we know that the people of Douglas are gems, and that Douglas by itself is nothing without the people who live inside of it and make and work here and have raised their children here. I'm a product of Douglas, and I'm very grateful for that. So we know that, but now other people are knowing that, and we're going to walk you through. Beth is going to walk you through our website. We have some cards here for you that I'll be passing out, but we welcome you to come to the Gadsden and see us, but more importantly, thank you for helping us launch this project.
Good evening. This is a very brief presentation. This is who we are. These are the people we've interviewed so far. This is our website, Douglas OHP. Bring a memory, share a story. These are some of the interviews that we've actually managed to get up online. We have a couple more that we put up today. These are our supporters. We're deeply grateful to everyone who's helped us. These are some of the events we've done over the last 2 years. And come and visit us. We'll be at the Gadsden. Thank you.
Now, somebody better time me, because once I start talking about Douglas, I can't stop. I'm talking a little bit about the Oral History Project, but it meshes in very well with the Veterans Project, because there's stories there. They're amazing stories. We invite people to come in. And just like when you were a kid and you sat around and you listened to your grandparents tell their stories, well, it's that kind of feeling, you know, you're getting these stories. Why did your family come? What brought them to Douglas? And you get these stories, and you learn about the different barrios in Douglas. You learn about what people did. And it wasn't all about the smelter, and it wasn't all about the railroad. It was about the people who came and the wonderful stories that brought them here and the strengths that they had. And then you see it in a bigger scope when all of a sudden, you know, you're working with the Veterans Project. And I want to throw a thank you to Anel and Florencio, because it started off as just a 6-month project. That's all it was going to be, 6 months. President Obama said, the nation needs to say thank you to all who served in the Vietnam War era. Well, that's 1959 and through 1975. And what happened is all of a sudden, boom, magic happened. Douglas discovered its history of veterans. And we have a rich history of veterans. And these stories came out. And then at the end of 6 months, we realized we cannot put this away. So we put out this little note on Facebook, we're going to be homeless, you know, and lo and behold, the Lopez family steps up. We have this little space, you know, we just bought the Gadsden, you know, and it's yours. And they were amazing welcoming us. But in the meantime, the Douglas, Arizona Historical Society, the museum up in Tucson, they saw our Facebook page and said, can we borrow your exhibit? And we're looking at each other and we're saying, what? Don't they understand something? This is homemade. This is not museum quality. They sent their board down here and they said, I don't think you understand what happened, what your community did. They brought an 18-wheeler, they took everything to Tucson, and it was there for 7 months. Then it came home to the Gadsden, and that's where it is. And how does it mesh in with the Oral History Project? Stories, wonderful stories. And I can tell you, these stories is what make Douglas proud, and what people read and see the stories of the veterans, and also the people that came, they get this pride. We get people that say, I don't have a story. We had nothing. And then they start telling their story. And then all of a sudden you see this pride, just boom. You see them smiling and realizing that they have a story, and it's a great story. Douglas has great stories. I had a guy from New York City come in and to the veterans exhibit, and he tells me, this is very emotional. And I go, yeah, it is very emotional. And he says, but not for what you think. And I go, well, why is it emotional for you? I didn't expect it. And I go, what didn't you expect? This on the border. And I go, what? You didn't expect patriotism on the border? And he says, no. And I go, well, you better look around. And he did. We have over 900 faces on our wall. We have had 11,000 people sign our guest log from everywhere. Today, when I was in there, I had a woman come in, and she had 2 people with them. And I'm like, welcome to Doug, doing my little welcome to Douglas thing. And she says, this is my 4th visit. Every time she's from Sierra Vista, every time I come this way, I bring somebody to see your exhibit. It tells those faces on the wall, the stories that are out there tell a lot about Douglas. They tell about who we are as characters. We have strong, amazing people here. Somebody asked me, well, what do you like most about Douglas? And I have to laugh. Everything. I having to spend a lot of time in Chandler, health issues and all, but there's not one restaurant in Chandler that can beat the restaurants in Douglas. I can tell you that they don't know how to make Mexican food. Absolutely. So what I'm saying is that Douglas has a chance to really shine, and we thank you for giving us that opportunity, because it is a great opportunity. The Gadsden Hotel is the living room of Douglas. That's where people go. And then once you're there, then it's up to all of us to show them the rest. So we are able to do that through now with the oral history over there and through the Veterans Project over there. Now we can do that. Last year, you guys, through your generosity in your budget, we were able to buy equipment to put a kiosk together. That'll be coming up and running. So, they'll be able to type in. And you got to understand that those of us that work on the Veterans Project, we're not very good at computers. Not at all. We're computer illiterate. And I'm probably the best one on the computer, and that's not saying very much, but we try our very best. None of us in the Veterans Project and none of us in the Oral History Project get a penny out of it, except we sure get a lot of good feelings out of it. We get a lot of good feelings, and we need your support. We need your stories. We need you to sign up for the stories. It's a little traveling for me right now, but we really want Douglas to be shown as the community it is, and along with Agua Prieta. And I know some of you have heard this before, but a guy from Scotland asked me, what is Agua Prieta? What's the translation for Agua Prieta? And I'm a really big-headed and smarty pants. Me goes, well, agua, water, prieta, generally they say dark, and then he goes, well, what's the translation for Douglas? Smarty mouth me goes, well, James Douglas was a father, and he says, I didn't ask for the history lesson. I asked you for a translation. He goes, it's a Scottish word. Duh, I don't know. And then he goes, so tell me again, what's the translation for Agua Prieta? I tell him again, and he goes, it's the same translation in Scottish as it is in Spanish. And then I thought, wow, there you go. It's magic. We are in an area of magic. Our histories, everything about us, so again, very strongly, I want to say to all of you individually, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you'll see us on asking for more money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jenny and Ceci and Beth. It's I still owe you. I'm feeling better now, so hopefully we can do it. It's important, and it's important that I know if you're like me, each one of us wish that we could ask our parents one more thing that we either forgot or we wanted to clarify. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to be proper stewards of history and be able to pass that on. So thank you so much. Item number 6, discussion decision on approvals. Item 6A, second reading of ordinance number 23-1157. An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending Title VI of the Animal Code relating to the regulation of animals, amending violations and penalties, establishing authority for removal of nuisance animals and orders to show cause, establishing severability of components of ordinance, and establishing an effective date thereof. Chief, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is the second reading where we were looking to, we had identified and looked to remedy conflicting provisions within Article 828-020 of Title 8 of the noise ordinance and Title 6 of the Douglas Municipal Code. Additional amendments to Title 6 are necessary for general housekeeping and to improve the efficiency and effectiveness in addressing repetitive complaints or violations involving nuisance animals. The definition of a public nuisance cat or dog presently includes a provision that the animal be the subject of an adjudication 3 or more times for any violation in this chapter within a 6-month period. In order to improve the efficiency and effectiveness in addressing repetitive complaints or violations involving nuisance animals, staff is recommending that the definition of a public nuisance cat or dog be amended to public nuisance animal and reduced to a period of 90 days. We are asking to amend section 6.040, 6.04.030 for violations and penalties to reflect the same 90-day period for the first, second, and third violation with a reduced fine for each offense. The magistrate has the discretion to suspend the fines for the first and second violation, but not the third violation, which carries a fine of not less than $150 or more than $500. Staff is requesting to add section 6.04035, impoundment and orders to show cause to ensure due process for the offending animal and or the animal's owner or custodian, which is currently absent in the ordinance. In this case, the magistrate would have the final authority based on the preponderance of the evidence to determine whether to release the animal back to the owner or custodian or to have the animal surrendered to the Douglas Animal Shelter for disposition through adoption or humane euthanasia, with adoption being the priority. And then lastly, staff is requesting to switch the provisions under sections 6.04.345 and 6.04.350 as a housekeeping item to have the hold harmless clause following the section on adoptions rather than following after the cremation fees.
Thank you, Chief. May I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Shelton.
I move the mayor and council approve the second reading of ordinance number 21-1157 by number and title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shelton, second by Mrs. Acosta to approve the second reading of ordinance number 23-1157 by number and title only. Any questions or discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Grijalva.
after last meeting, I asked for the statistics on it, for the complaints. And there were 143 total calls for noise complaints. Out of those 143, there were only 14 that were for dogs. And 9 of those calls were from 3 repeat residences in just a small part of the city. As far as, as far as my conscience goes, I can't understand on the taking away the pet part. When I walk to the gym and I take, if you want to get technical about it, I take ward 6, 5, and 4. The majority of those houses have pets and they're loud. Dogs bark. They only bark when I'm going in front of their property and they stop after I leave. And a lot of those pets belong to elderly people, disabled people, children. To think that, you know, me just standing there, having them cause a noise can have them be taken away if it's inside that 6-month period. I mean, I put myself in that situation. I have a little Chihuahua. And she's loud. When anybody wants to get near my house, she's loud. People know where I'm gonna be twice a month. If somebody just wants to stand there and try to agitate my dog, you know, what can I do about it? So, you know, at the same time, you know, I understand why this is being brought up. I understand why it's a housekeeping item. For me, I just can't, I just don't feel comfortable out of 9.8, out of just 143 calls and then 14 of those being for dogs. That's less than 10% that we're changing an ordinance for. And we've had discussions about petitions. Well, how many do we need to sign a petition for it to be, you know, to change something being named, grounds park being named? Here, we're talking about just 10% of the, I think for me, it's a low number for changing an ordinance. So I think this is a type of ordinance that we need the community involved. And we need to educate them on what the consequences are gonna be. Because last thing I want somebody to come here and say, you know, they took my son's dog away. Or they took an elderly person's dog away, or their only friend, or an introvert that doesn't go out and has one dog, that's their only friend. I couldn't live with myself doing that. So that's very, for me, this is, I mean, I understand the complaints, but to go to an extreme to take the pet away for adoption or humane euthanasia. And I understand the adoption's of top priority, but I also understand that we're a kill shelter. So that, for me, that doesn't look good. And at the same time, I don't feel comfortable with these actions being, you know, we're voting on it, but then DPD has to go and take that animal away, right? The animal control. It's gonna look, for me, it's also gonna look bad on them because why are the police doing this? Why is the city doing this? So, for me, I just wanted to say, the conditions on it just don't make me feel comfortable after reading it, especially looking up the statistics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grijalva. Chief, if you'd like to respond on the discretion that's involved in this.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Grijalva, we live in a society and sometimes laws are necessary to help us regulate behaviors between conflicting parties. So the idea here, and with any law, is voluntary compliance. That's the lowest level possible, correct? So voluntary compliance is typically the first step that we're looking for. What this amendment to the ordinance does is it allows a progression of enforcement. So on the first contact, they may be subject to that penalty. And again, there is already a provision in there for a first, second, and third penalty. What we're recommending is to reduce the fine for each of the first and second offenses, which the magistrate has the discretion to either assess or to waive for the first and second penalty. So it's not, you know, a one-time violation that causes the animal to be removed. There are, again, that progression. So it's upon the third or subsequent violation where the animal can be removed. But as an added provision for both the animal and the owner, they do have, or we're looking to add a order to show cause where the owner or custodian can request an order to show cause from the court. The court hears it from both perspectives, from the police department or humane officers, and then the owner or custodian, and then has the ultimate authority to determine whether the dog should be returned and allowed back at the residence or needs to be seized and remain in the control of animal control. And again, for the majority of responsible pet owners, I don't know that there's going to be an issue, but with any law, we have repetitive offenders that are either indifferent or uncaring when it comes to the application of the law. So to your point about police being put in the position of having to remove the animal, alternatively, we find ourselves many times in a position where we have a neighbor conflict and have no way to resolve it. And every time that we get called, we return with no mechanism to resolve it. So this is one of those mechanisms that would help us resolve it.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Shelton, please.
Okay, this is my opinion. This needs to be done. How many did you say were complaints?
For dogs,
Yes.
14.
Okay, 14. You know, usually these 14 are people that are complaining that the dog is barking a lot. And that, these people, and it's usually at night when they want to sleep, or it's people that work, or it's elderly people. They get plenty, as far as I'm concerned, I think warn them once and then do what step 3 is. You know, and it needs to be done. I know, I won't say any names because everybody knows everybody, but I've had 2 complaints myself, and I've had one of them. I even called the owner of the dog because they're friends also and neighbors, and I know you all probably know them, but you know, and I sort of resolved it there because this lady was very elderly and she wanted to sleep, and the dog was right there barking, and she could not sleep. I know of people that put earmuffs on, or they'll go to change their bedroom to where they can't hear the dog, or they'll put easy listening music on to tone it off, or tone the sounds off. So I'm completely in order of this. If we have to do this with 3 or 4 people go to step 3 in 1 year, that's nothing. But this is a good way to resolve this, and that way the people whose dogs are barking and people cannot sleep, once again, whether they're trying to work the next day or they're elderly, it bothers them. So I'm definitely in favor of this.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Anyone else?
Mayor,
Just let me go down this way, Mr. Grijalva first. Mrs. Costa.
Yes, in reading the proposed, amendment to the, city code, I see that, you know, there's 2 main aspects, and Chief kind of touched on one, which is, I think number 1 is owner responsibility. You know, being a responsible pet owner, you should understand and you know, what the ordinances are, the responsibilities of having a pet, and which on a side note is why I haven't gotten my children one, because we don't have the time or the energy to take care of a dog. We love dogs, we just can't. So being a responsible pet owner is definitely, you know, up to our citizens to understand that it is their responsibility. And then second of all is officer discretion. The subsection A of 6.04.035 impoundment and orders to show cause says, you know, the officer and the peace officer, animal control officer, and I'm paraphrasing, if they reasonably believe that the animal will continue to cause the same violation, you know, it doesn't say that they shall or that they have to. It's just that they will reasonably assess the situation, and that's, you know, one of the recourses of action that they can take. So, you know, it just, like Chief explained, you know, there's laws in order to keep a civilized society, and it should pertain, you know, to all parts of our community.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lindeman, do you have anything? Mr. Grijalva, please.
and also just as a last point, because I forgot to mention it, there were border patrols that live around the south side of the city, around Polk, where a lot of illegals jump the border and they're there, and the only way they know about it is dogs barking. So I mean, if somebody says, hey, there's a bunch of dogs barking, that doesn't let me sleep, but if that's telling them that something's going on, I think it's also a safety issue with that. But like I said, I think we should have let the public know about this, maybe get their input, maybe they have ideas on how to do it better, but I get both sides. But for me, it's a concern for those citizens, but thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Just one more thing,
Oh,
Mr.
please,
Mayor,
Chief.
if I may, assuming that this carries forward, there are ways for us to track those metrics to see how many complaints we continue to receive,
Yeah.
just like the metrics that we have right now. How many dogs actually are seized under the provisions of this, and how many of them are, forfeited to the animal shelter, and then what the disposition of that animal is. Something that we can track on a regular basis and report back to mayor and council, just to show what the effectiveness is of the ordinance.
Thank you very much. Hearing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva,
No,
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
Yes.
and Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries.
An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending Title VI of the Animal Code relating to the regulation of animals, amending violations and penalties, establishing authority for removal of nuisance animals and orders to show cause, establishing severability of components of ordinance, and establishing an effective date thereof.
Thank you. Item 6B, discussion decision on approval of second reading of ordinance number 23-1158. An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending Article 8.28 of the Health and Safety Code relating to the regulation of noise, establishing severability of components of ordinance, and establishing an effective date thereof. Chief, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is the second part of making the amendments to remove the conflicting provisions between Article 828-020 under Title 8 of the Noise Ordinance and Title 6 of the Douglas Municipal Code. The provision regulating barking animals already exists under Title 6 without the requisite parameters found in the Noise Ordinance. And the existence of both provisions in separate articles has created some unintended confusion on how and which ordinance applies to a given circumstance. So staff is recommending that Article 828-020, paragraph D be stricken in its entirety, and its provisions are already incorporated into Title 6 as noticed in the ordinance.
Thank you, Chief. I have a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Shelton.
I move that the mayor and council approve the second reading of ordinance number 23-1158 by number and title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shelton, second by Mrs. Acosta to approve the second reading of ordinance number 23-1158 by number and title only. Any questions or discussion, please? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva,
no,
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries.
Can I make a comment?
Hold on. let me read that.
An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending Article 8.28 of Health and Safety Code relating to the regulation of noise, establishing severability of components of ordinance, and establishing an effective date thereof.
Thank you. Mr. Shelton, please.
Yes, we've had to call several times over the years. You know, people having parties up until 4 a.m. and screaming and yelling music, so. But I don't know if your neighbors do that. Some of ours did.
Thank you. Item number 6C, discuss and decision on approval of first reading of ordinance number 23-1159. An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, to undertake a departmental reorganization affecting various departments and amending ordinances number 631, 673, 728, 848, 04-08, 04-871, 09-954, 13-1027, 18-1086, 19-1103, 19-1108, 21-1133, and 22-1142, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof. Mr. Kiko, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. It seems almost exactly a year ago, I came before you to request a more major reorganization. And we're back today with another change or modification to the organizational chart. As we are in constant pursuit of operational efficiencies, I really like to take every vacancy as an opportunity to reassess what is working and what needs to evolve. And the primary reasons to bring this back is with streets and roads being one of the mayor and council's policy priorities for Douglas Vision 2032, we realize that we're so constrained in our ability to move things forward because of some of the lack in resources that we have in this area. So one of the areas is to propose using a vacant position, which is a maintenance technician in our streets area, to propose to create a new streets program, and using that as an FTE, not necessarily as the position level, but as an FTE to create a street supervisor position to be able to divide into two divisions what's currently being managed under facilities maintenance. And we feel the need, due to the tall lift in this area, to separate into two divisions and start applying resources specifically to streets and roads. And that's already in transition. Along with that, we are making a recommendation also, as you've noticed, maybe some activity at City Hall happening with co-locating some areas, not necessarily part of the reorganization, but seeking collaboration in partnering departments. And as part of that, we would like to add some permit technician functions to the current administrative assistant in the Public Works area. So that is a minor change, but it will allow for development services to co-locate in with Public Works, move them over to City Hall, and provide a better level of customer service to our community as a result. Another area that we're looking to modify is to reclassify what was formerly called the marketing and communication specialist, rather, that became vacant late last year. And again, with the assessment of that vacancy, we realized that the tourism function is where we were lacking. And I'd like to convert that or reclassify that position to a tourism coordinator and restructure the departments a little bit to be able to nicely fit that in a way that makes sense with similar functionality. So we're asking for that to report to what is currently a Parks and Recreation manager, and changing the title to a Recreation and Tourism manager. And then the maintenance part of Parks and Recreation and Cemetery, move them out of that to directly report to the director. And again, minor tweaks, but I think that the changes are vast in the areas that we'll be able to launch into more proactively and progressively into the future. We're also eliminating from the organizational chart reference to golf positions that haven't been funded for many, many years. We're currently under assessment for what we're going to do at the golf course in terms of it's under a contract with the Municipal Property Corporation. So those positions really are not indicative of the current operation. So for now, we are removing them. If after assessment and recommendations, we choose to place them back in, then we will return. But currently, it's just not reflective of the current operation. We're also moving forward with eliminating from the organizational chart any reference to our housing authority, which just recently transferred to Cochise County. And then finally, I'm making a recommendation that we allocate limited funds for a public relations staff assistant in the city manager's office to take care of all of our press releases, pieces of the marketing and communication specialties that were all combined into one position before, where it was, just too much for one area. And I think with all of the tools we have in the city manager's office, it will work nicely from there, providing we find the right incumbent for that position. So that in a nutshell is the update to the organizational chart before you. If there are some specific questions on detail, our HR manager, Ms. Rocio Garcia Pedrosa, is available to answer any questions, and she continues to work on some of the tweaking of those job descriptions. Mayor?
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the placement of ordinance 23-1159.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Lindeman, please.
I move that the mayor and council approve the placement of ordinance number 23-1159 on its first reading by number and title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lindeman, second by Mr. Shelton to approve the placement of ordinance number 23-1159 on its first reading by number and title only. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Lindeman.
I'm really in favor of the streamlining and making our city government work more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone
Mayor.
else? There's also another chance to question, but go ahead, please, Mr. Carl.
I asked the staff what the the fiscal impact was gonna be for next year, and it's, like I said, conscience wise, it's gonna be a new position, and I understand that. The League of Cities, I'm sure they might have a class on how to write press releases. We have a podcast, we have the YouTube channel. I just keep getting asked, you need to fill all these positions because you need workers to fix the sidewalks, you need workers to fix the streets, you need workers to do all this, help maintain. I think we're better, I think we need to prioritize the blue collar jobs that we need, instead of possibly funding more administration posts. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva,
No.
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries.
An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, to undertake a departmental reorganization affecting various departments and amending ordinance number 631, 673, 728, 848, 04-871, 09-954, 13-10, 1027, 18-1086, 19-1103, 19-1108, 21-1133, and 22-1142, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof.
Thank you. Mrs. Costa?
Yes, and I apologize for being out of order, but thank you, Mayor, for allowing it.
Oh, you're fine.
I just like to see a comparison or the current chart. If we can get that before the next meeting, and then also it'd be good to know what the major projects are or that are current or being forecasted for these positions. I think that would be very helpful to kind of see that on paper and see what these positions, how the work is being spread out. I know just looking at the org chart, it just seems a little heavy, especially for the Public Works Director. Holy cow, she has quite a lot of of people there. So it would be good to know what major projects, and I know, there's a lot going on right now. So that'd be helpful, I think, for all of us, at least for myself.
Thank you,
Very
Mrs.
good. We
Acosta.
can absolutely get that.
May I have a motion to approve the first reading? of the
Mayor.
ordinance? Please, Mr. Lindeman.
I move that the mayor and council approve the first reading of ordinance number 23-1159 and place it on its second reading by number and title only.
Is there a second?
Second,
Motion by Mr. Lindeman, second by Mrs. Costa to approve the first reading of ordinance number 23-1159 and place it on its second reading by number and title only. Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Shelton, please.
I'm gonna have to agree with Mrs. Acosta. I think, Councilwoman, I think I would like to see the chart and let's discuss this in more next meeting, when we have to do the final reading. So I agree with you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes,
Councilmember Grijalva,
No.
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries.
An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, to undertake a departmental reorganization affecting various departments and amending ordinance number 631, 673, 728, 848, 04-871, 09-954, 13-1027, 18-1086, 19-1103, 19-1108, 21-1133, and 22-1142, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof.
Thank you. Item 6D, discussing decision on approval of resolution number 23-1538. Resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, abolishing the City of Douglas Program Coordinating Committee. Ms. Gonzalez, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you all recall, we entered into an agreement with Cochise County for the transfer of the City of Douglas Housing Program effective January 1, 2023. The Program Coordinating Committee hereby becomes obsolete in the absence of the housing program. So we are requesting approval on abolishing the committee.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Shelton.
I move that the mayor and council approve resolution number 23-38.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shelton, second by Mr. Lindeman to approve resolution number 23-1538. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes,
Councilmember Grijalva,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6E, discussing decision on approval of resolution number 23-1539. A resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, adopting the Cochise County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan 2022. Chief, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the Cochise County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, referred to as the plan, serves as a guide to the county and participating jurisdictions towards meeting the needs of our communities with regard to greater disaster resilience. The plan identifies historical and anticipated natural hazard occurrence risk, vulnerability assessment, capabilities assessment, policies, resources, programs, and projects that can be implemented to reduce hazard impacts in the community. Identified hazards included in the plan are building collapse and mine subsidence, drought, earthquake, fissure, flood, flash flood, severe wind, and wildfire. The plan is a result of the collaborative efforts of planning team members representing each of the participating jurisdictions and comprised of multiple levels of government, organizations, and community stakeholders. The plan is required to be reviewed and revised every 5 years in order to remain eligible for potential future post-disaster grant funding, and will replace the plan that was adopted by mayor and council in 2017. The plan was submitted to FEMA on December 30th of 2022, and upon initial review has issued approvable pending adoption, which requires that each of the participating jurisdictions submit a resolution adopting the plan. The plan was approved by the Cochise County Board of Supervisors on January 10th, 2023, and staff is recommending that we approve.
Thank you, Chief. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Grijalva.
I move that the mayor and council approve resolution number 23-1539.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Grijalva, second by Mrs. Acosta to approve resolution number 23-1539. Any questions or discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Lindeman.
I just have one question that comes to mind. Do we review or update the plans such as this every year? Every 3 years? What's in general?
So this specific plan is reviewed and revised every 5 years.
5 years.
It's not to say that we can't make additional revisions to it during that 5-year time. In fact, we do have responsibilities built into the plan that requires us to take a review in preparation for the next 5-year period.
Okay.
And then aside from that, the city of Douglas has our own standalone emergency operation plan. The last time that it was updated was 2019. So it is due for revision.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindeman. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr.
Ms.
Mayor?
Morales, please.
I wanted to ask Chief Olin if this plan is one that the city participates in annually as part of the disaster plan with the county and some of the other agencies. Is this done once a year?
Same question.
I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
The annual.
So.
Is this an annual?
Mr.
Mayor-
Mayor, Councilmember Morales, or Mayor Pro Tem Morales, excuse me. The plan that is before you tonight is a 5-year plan. And it is renewed every 5-year period. But there are
Right.
provisions within the plan that require us to make preparations for the next 5-year cycle.
Okay, but what I
Mayor-
was wondering if this is a part of the plan, the disaster plan that is usually done every year with the county and some of the, like the hospital?
Okay, I think there's multiple plans because as I said, the city has our own standalone plan. I know that the county has their own individual continuity plans. And this is a
Okay.
collective plan for Cochise County as a whole. And again, what this does is makes all of the participating jurisdictions eligible for reimbursement in the event that we do experience a disaster of one form or another.
Okay, all
Does
right.
that
No,
answer your
thank you, Chief.
question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chief Olin.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Let's just pray that we don't ever have to use it. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindeman,
Yes,
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes,
Councilmember Grijalva,
yes,
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries. Item 6F, discussion decision on approval of contract award to Native Network, Inc. for broadband network and telecommunication plan. Mr. Martinez, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. exactly 1 year ago, as a matter to the date, we were provided some direction to seek out a consultant or a contractor to develop a telecommunication plan, which will include a roadmap to enhance and expand our current telecommunication services throughout the city. So what you have in front of you is the contract award with Native Network that will do just that. So we're asking for your approval. The funding will come from our ARPA funding. And that's what will pay for this telecommunication study. So as we look into growth and expansion and annexation, this is definitely something that we are respectfully requesting that is approved so that we can see some of these technology gaps and try to fill them as over time. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. May I have a motion to approve the contract award?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Shelton,
I move that the mayor and council approve the contract award to Native Network Incorporated for broadband network and telecommunication plan to enhance and expand current telecommunications services for the city.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shelton, second by Mr. Grijalva to approve the contract award to Native Network Inc. for broadband network and communications plan to enhance and expand current telecommunication services for the city. We also have on the line this evening, Mr. Metcalf of Native, if you have any questions for him, and also our IT director, Mr. Camacho is here also to have any input along with Mr. Martinez staff. Any questions or comments?
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Lindeman.
what we have before us is the Native consultant firm. And I guess my question is, do they work with the existing broadband that we have, such as the, I forget what they call it, the schools and also the Simply Bits and the other people that are in Cox, you know, things like that. So I'm not clear as, are they working with those people? Are they thinking of just doing a study on their own?
I would defer to,
Mayor, if I may,
yes.
can I confirm if Mr. Metcalf is on the call?
Yes,
I-
yes, he is.
Okay, good. So,
Mr. Metcalf, can you expand on the services you'll be providing?
Yes, absolutely. Greetings, Mr. Mayor and council. Thank you for the opportunity to work with the city on developing this plan. I think I heard the question that was proposed regarding working with existing vendors and technologies. And so the purpose of this plan is to identify and catalog those services and then provide a plan to enhance, if necessary, those offerings, and furthermore to help the city define its roadmap into the future, primarily for deficiencies of current network, as well as the goals and needs of the city moving forward, both from a smart city point of view and from a general technology point of view.
Mr. Metcalf, the second part of that question was, will it incorporate like the school district, other government agencies, et cetera, in order to develop a citywide total holistic plan?
Yes. So the idea is to interview all relative or relevant network operators or stakeholders, and to develop a comprehensive plan that utilizes and expands on existing networks. And so the goal is a holistic network that can serve and be available to all users and from the city's perspective.
Mr. Lindeman, does that answer your question, or is there more to?
Well, I'm still kind of unclear as to why we need a consultant when we've already have services. I'm not remembering who services our police force or the county and things like that, but it's already in the works. So I'm really unclear about this.
Would you-
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, please, Mr. Keel.
thank you. So if you recall, when our discussion, it's not so much about the current providers because the intent is not to necessarily compete with any provider, certainly of the community. It's to assess expansion of our services and also from the smart city perspective to be able to provide new opportunities as we grow into the future and be able to expand beyond the gaps and the digital divide gaps that we have, bridging those. We will look at cell towers, they will look at sensor technology, they will be able to assess other players, because one of the base needs that this will provide for us is the opportunity to use this assessment to qualify for future grants for further expansion beyond what our current providers are able to handle, and be able to be an attraction for future investment to solidify areas in an expanded area as well. We, despite the great services we have here, we're still considered a rural area, and as we grow beyond where we are, we need to be able to take advantage of many grant opportunities, and without a roadmap, it's difficult to do so. So this roadmap will pave the way, if you will, to be able to take on future requests to set us up for more growth in the community mindfully. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So to summarize, I think what we're saying is that we want to see what's existing now and plan for the future. So if there's any new schools opening, if the expansion of the port of entry, the expansion of the city limits, et cetera, what infrastructure will be needed. And I think Ms. Urquijo mentioned one of the key parts is that any of those entities would probably be able to use this plan to look for grant opportunities to be able to fund their projects based on how it will impact the overall infrastructure of the community.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Keough, it's hard for me to hear you, and technology is not always the greatest. I'm not the one on.
Even more the reason to create a roadmap.
Yeah, exactly. And in the end, I would hope that this would benefit our citizens so that we can have broadband,
Yes,
more
absolutely.
reliably. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and it should, and it better to affect the overall community in which we're all involved in. We can even get our oral history even stronger to go. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Grijalva, please.
I want to thank Mrs. Urquijo because I remember we had our one-on-one and this was sort of her brainchild. She was excited about it. And then the day after we had it, that's when a article came out on the newspaper in Tucson saying that, the Tucson had internet for their citizens, free internet. And I kind of told her, are you crazy? We want to do the same thing, but it's actually not the same thing. It's basically Douglas trying to be independent in broadband, right? So we don't have to be too dependent on other services, right? This is us controlling, like you said, we're filling the gap, we're controlling it, and then maybe we can expand upon it later on. Or am I off base there?
Mayor, Councilmember Grijalva, thank you for that. Yes, I think this was something very passionate that I initiated, and not what Tucson had. And you are correct; they'd had something similar, but the focus here is really to have a solid government network for government purposes, and then beyond that, to be able to be a catalyst for future developers to be able to take part in that in different ways, not necessarily to take over their services, but to be partners in different ways. Mr. Metcalf is, if there's anything there additional that you can help expand, it would be good to show the different network types that we might be able to look at through this roadmap?
Absolutely. So we're going to take a look at what you have today, but we're going to take a look into the future, the near future, and then a 5, 10, 15-year look ahead and what you will need at that point. So we're looking at wireless technologies that can provide sensors for any number of functionality from street lights, traffic lights, rodent protection, water, sewer management, making those the management of the city more efficient, cost-effective, and recordable. So that's part of this equation. The other is making sure that the network is expandable and ready to take advantage of those grants that some folks have talked about. You must have a plan ready to go when a grant becomes available and identify what it is that you're going to be able to do with this grant money. So we're trying to identify a fairly wide swath of technology that the community will need or want in the future to support all facets of the smart city technology base, as well as help identify additional service providers that may want to come into the city if the opportunity was there. Not necessarily creating competition, however, making the opportunities available. When you look at schools, hospitals, those types of things are incredible users of technology, and to establish, have a plan for advancing the technology and capabilities of those institutions, anchor institutions within the community, is very important. So there's multiple grants available to communities, particularly rural communities, which we specialize in. And so having this plan, we call it not shovel ready, but grant ready planning, so that the writing of those grants is much easier, because the pre-engineering plans are in place to be able to create those grant applications very quickly and in a very professional manner.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments?
Mayor?
Yes, please, Mrs. Costa.
I'd also like to commend Mr. Our IT director. I see his name. I see his name in my face and I'm like, yes, our IT manager, Mr. Camacho, as well for this project. And I mean, if I think we look back just maybe a few years ago, we used to have just one internet service provider, I think, in town. Now we have a few. So I can see how this is, how this could be questionable. I know just enough about technology to be dangerous and probably not very good at it. But it's definitely our world, is reliant on this, and seems like it would just put us in a good position to hopefully not have that happen again, where we just have one service provider, one, we could possibly get more interest on other companies coming in and competing for our business, not just monopolizing it. So I know it's a lot of money, but it's something that we definitely need, and it would be nice to be ahead of, or maybe closer to the technology ceiling. I know it's hard to do, but hopefully it'll get us there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes.
Councilmember Acosta,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 7, adjournment. May I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mrs. Acosta.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Acosta, second by Mr. Grijalva to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? The ayes have it. We stand adjourned at 6:39.